Without a doubt, some of the best content in V Rising are the numerous boss fights you take on, which are called V Blood Hunts, and man can they be great. Honestly, there aren't really any that stand out as bad in terms of design. Sure, some are less memorable or exciting than others, but I think the developers really nailed the impact of hunting these down and the preparation you truly need to take when doing so. Today, I'm going to break down who I think are the top 5 best bosses in V Rising. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe and also follow me on twitch.tv/Redlaf, where I'm playing this game almost every day and happy to talk more about it. Now, the top 5 list. Coming in at number 5, we have Wilfred, the Werewolf Chief. Werewolves vs. vampires is an age-old tale that everyone loves, and it pops up in media all the time. So of course, it made sense to have werewolves in the game and even a werewolf boss. And boy, does Wilfred the Werewolf Chief embody a monstrous werewolf foe, the top dog of all werewolves. This fight is set up perfectly for a werewolf raid. Why? Because you can only attack during the night. If you go during the day, all the werewolves revert to their true form as villagers. It's a small detail that adds a great immersion to the fight, as well as a bit of a timer, as you must beat Wilfred before the sun rises or have to wait to start again. Additionally, in his fight, Wilfred has one of the most memorable summons where he howls and brings forth a large amount of villagers around him. While most summons against bosses are additional enemies to fight, these NPCs are non-hostile and instead run around. Wilfred will then charge towards them to eat and heal, so it's a battle of you killing them before Wilfred can eat them, while you're also duking it out with each other. This adds a great dynamic to a challenging foe with solid health and damage. The number 4 spot is for Merwin, the Elementalist. It's hard to truly feel like a mage in this game with how inclusive the weapons are to your fighting style. However, when fighting Merwin, you feel like you're fighting a master of the elements, almost like an avatar herself. Dueling her remains memorable as she brings out crazy fight mechanics you must learn, and she feels like a natural catastrophe to defeat. Between the chances being frozen, plopped in the air in a mystical bubble, and the sprays of fire and giant fireballs that attack you, it's an incredible fight. Only if the arena was a bit more memorable, then she definitely would have had a higher spot on this list. If you truly want that dueling mage immersion, only use magic abilities against her and find out who's the better wizard. Coming in at number 3, we have Tristan, the Vampire Hunter. The early game menace, the foe of all new players, Tristan the Vampire Hunter roams the lands of Farbane Woods, the starter zone for low-level players, despite being more towards the mid-tier of levels. If you run across him too early, which is very common, he's a terrifying fight to have to run away from. Even when you eventually get to his level, he still acts as a challenging fight with his first form attacks and then his second stage fire bombs and crossbow. His damage output is absolutely insane, and he's so memorable from your early stages of accidentally running into him to the point where you can finally take him down. While his mechanics are not the most complex compared to others on this list, he acts as your first major challenge in my opinion, and a guiding light for something to overcome in the early game, and for that, he gets a spot. Coming in second place on this top 5 list, we have Knight Marshal Styx the Sunderer. There are 3 of these lone wanderer type bosses in the game with Tristan, Jade, and then Styx. Unlike the former 2 who hunt vampires, Knight Marshal Styx the Sunderer is a vampire lord himself, a former lieutenant to Dracula, and his power shows it. Between crazy bat tornadoes he shoots out, a ton of mobility abilities that he utilizes, and the summons he drops, Styx can be an absolute menace to fight. When I first fought him with 2 others, the sheer amount of summons he dropped on us while dashing around quite simply broke us. And that's not even getting to his final ability, where he turns your screen dark and at least a dozen bat tornadoes fly around as you're desperately trying to dodge while I'm sure you're low on HP. Defeating Styx was a huge challenge, and when you did so, it finally felt like you had achieved the title of a vampire lord. Before we get into the final spot, we have a couple honorable mentions. Beatrice the Tailor. This is easily one of the most memorable hunts in the game, and it's not for reasons you expect. All Beatrice does is run and hopefully get guards and other V-Blood units to come to her aid. You can potentially snipe her down quickly or find yourself surrounded. Either way, she's incredibly memorable for what a unique take of a boss fight she is, and honestly how hilarious she is. And the second is the Duke of Balaton. Hopping around, bringing in frogs, and actually gobbling you up is memorable in my books. Finally, the number 1 spot on this top 5 best bosses list for V Rising, Solaris the Immaculate. The final boss of this game, it's no surprise that he's the top of the list. Incredibly beautiful and terrifying boss arena that's like no other? Check. Incredibly difficult with an array of abilities? Check. Unique boss mechanics you have to learn with his angel summon and the need to focus on one or the other? Check. Solaris the Immaculate lives up to his hype as the final boss. He's a foe you truly have to prepare for. The final 2 bosses before him, my group ran in and blitzed. It was a beatdown. No special blood, no potions, just raw manpower. Solaris humbled us quickly. I love the fact that this was a boss you had to strategize around, learn what potions you need, change abilities to deal with his insane arsenal of weapons, and figure out ways to counter him. I can't lie, no other boss in this game is even close to how great Solaris was, and the fact that we know there's more hidden gear in the game and a locked region, we know the future bosses this game will release will have a lot to follow up to. And that's my top 5 list. Let me know who your favorite bosses were in the comments below, and if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Till next time.